Hello everybody, I did my picture file in third grade economy. I followed the standard 3.5. This is a third grade economy lesson, so we look at different resources, the types of resources, we look at where goods are made and maybe some that they've seen before. We understand trade-offs and we talk about their own human capital in school. So we define economy, we look at different resources, I define natural resources for them and then also explain to them the two different types of resources. And then we go into human resources, capital resources, and then we do an example where we try to find where in the process we find a natural, a capital, or a human resource. Because there are two types of natural resources, we can also ask, where do you find a non-renewable and a renewable source? Obviously, the wheat would probably be the renewable, while the gas to power the machines might be the non-renewable, since that's a fossil fuel. And then we do practical examples. So how are they changing? We put this into perspective for the students. So I talk about how bubble wrap used to be a household decoration. People used to actually use it as wallpaper. It didn't really take off because that's what the inventors wanted it to be, and only a few people really caught on to that. So they actually ended up using it for greenhouses to trap the heat in. And people still use that today, but most importantly, there was a tech guy that came along and he decided it would be better as a packaging tool. And so he packed computers, and that's why we use it today as a packing device. We then talk about trains, just to reiterate the renewable, non-renewable sources. We used to use coal-powered trains, now we're turning into electric-powered. And then we talk about which is better, so the students get to compare and contrast and see the actual trains that are forming today that are replacing the old coal ones. Next, we talk about goods. We define goods. We talk about where you can buy goods, find goods. What kind of goods do we make in California? Those are all addressed in the slide. And then we talked about imported goods, and we put some of the different foods that people might see in different aisles, like it's the ethnic aisle, they like to call it, or whatever, and you'll find all this stuff that's been imported usually over there as well. This is for tags, so it again puts it into perspective for the kids. Where are my clothes coming from? Because a lot of the clothes that we wear are not actually made in the United States. So if they find on their tag, they're made in Guatemala, China, Bangladesh, India, Italy, it might be fun for the students to even look at their own tags and see, where are my clothes from? Next, we have labels. A lot of imported produce will have the labels, but then they also talk about different companies that bring their product over from their country. So like Japan has cup of noodles, and we love cup of noodles here. It really took off. So kids probably have seen cup of noodles. Kids have seen avocados, they've seen bananas. So it just puts it into perspective that, look at these labels when you go to the grocery store and you might learn a little something more that you didn't know about economy. And then we talk about economic trade, and then we talk about trade off and the different ways that we've come to trade goods. So in this slide, we barter, then we used gold, coins, paper money, and now we're going into plastic, crypto, electronic money. And again, those are trade-offs. So whenever we go to trade off something, you take something and you want it to be equal to what you're giving. That's why we have a symmetrical little picture there. And then I give the kids a scenario, you want the chocolate pudding and you give your friend an apple. What are the trade-offs? Because maybe you really needed that apple, but now you're eating a pudding cup, or maybe your friend really wants her pudding cup and you just took that and gave her an apple and you kind of played her. So we're talking about the cost, the benefits, and all that kind of stuff that could go on with this interaction. And then we talk about, where does the economy fit in your life? Again, bringing the discussion to the students' lives. So their job currently is a student. They're going to school, they're learning. You talk about their trade-offs, you do homework and you learn from the teacher. By doing homework, you're trading your learning and knowledge to the teacher to assess it. So by then, you're doing a trade-off by being a student. You also talk about your trade-offs for the school. So by collecting box tops, you're actually giving back to your school, which gives back to you by giving you libraries, parks, stuff like that to play on. And then benefits of what you do as a student. So if you get good grades, you might have a pizza party. If you clean, maybe you get more recess time or something. And then costs. What are costs to your actions? You might have to stay in during recess. You'll have a dirty classroom. You might fail your grades. So it's all about costs and benefits and weighing those out. And then from there you go to the final, which is your human capital. So you just talk about, do you have good human capital, bad human capital? If you have bad human capital, how can you improve? What are better ways that you can work as a student in your school or just as a person to build your human capital?